Hey, let him go! Let him go!
I will do it every time. I know bad guy.
Hey guys, wow. Imagine driving home with groceries in the back seat, humming along to a Spanish radio station, your toddler's sippy cup rattling on the floor, then flashing lights, a siren. You pull over. Routine traffic stop, you think. But minutes later, your name is flagged in a database, ICE contracts from a third-party vendor. The officer makes a call. Your heart sinks. You say, I'm a legal permanent resident. But they're not hearing that. A van pulls up. You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know your location and local time down in the comments, and let's go on the journey of today's story together. You trudge across the yellow-lit parking lot toward your car, cold November wind stinging your knuckles. You've lived here 18 years. You coached Little League. You filed taxes. You got your green card when George W. Bush was still president. But when the county cop runs your name, it glitches. The National Crime Information Center pings it as potential non-citizen. ICE gets the alert. They call this the Secure Communities Program. You're about to find out just how secure it really is. At the ICE field office in Detroit, the agent asks if you've ever lied on an immigration form. You say no. He asks if you've ever been arrested. You say once, but the charges were dropped. He doesn't nod. He doesn't blink. He hands you a paper labeled Notice to Appear. You stare at the words. You are hereby ordered to show cause why you should not be removed from the United States. Removed, like gum off a shoe. Later, you find out that in 2022 alone, ICE issued detainers on 34,000 people without full verification of their immigration status. You're not the exception. You're the rule. Meanwhile, the ICE website proudly promotes its success in deporting a suspected cartel leader in California, complete with photos of tactical gear and assault rifles. You wonder if those agents sleep differently than you.
Hey, let him go!
You sit in the holding room, eyes darting from one fluorescent bulb to the next, trying to follow their hum like it's a song with meaning. A clock ticks behind bulletproof glass, but the time doesn't move. You've been here hours, maybe more, and no one has explained what's going on. You ask for a phone call. They tell you to wait. You say again, you're a legal resident. You say it like it's a password. It used to open doors. Now it opens nothing. The confusion begins with a database. ICE uses an internal system called ident to compare fingerprints, but it's riddled with outdated files. Combine that with state DMV records, some of which still list people as non-citizen, even after they've adjusted their status, and the chaos begins to make sense. Or rather, you realize this isn't confusion. It's structure. You learn later that Track at Syracuse University analyzed ICE's removal statistics. In thousands of cases, individuals were mistakenly marked as non-citizens, triggering automatic detainers. Once that machinery starts, it rarely stops. Due process? You won't see a judge for 10 days, and even then the court might be over Zoom. If you're lucky, you'll get 10 minutes to speak. Outside, the media is chasing other stories. ICE has just announced the deportation of a Romanian national wanted for cyber fraud in New Jersey. Photos show agents in bulletproof vests with police emblazoned on their chests. But no headlines are written about you. No images are taken. No bulletproof vest was needed to apprehend a grocery shopper. A wired investigation into ICE's biometric errors shows that even minor typos, like an extra middle name or transposed birth date, can lead to wrongful detention. The system is fast. The system is exacting. The system is also wildly imperfect. You try to explain this to your daughter in a shaky voice message from the detention center phone. You say, "Poppy's okay." You say, "I'll be home soon." But you don't know if that's true. Luis had never been in trouble. Not really. A parking ticket in 2011. A misunderstanding in 2015 when a neighbor reported a suspicious vehicle, his own van. That's it. Married, 2 kids, a shift manager at a packaging plant outside Ann Arbor. He was the guy who brought pan dulce to Sunday Mass, who stayed after to stack chairs. Everyone knew him, but ICE didn't, and that would be the difference. You trace Luis's last drive. He'd worked a double shift to slot, picked up some Gatorade and diapers, and was on his way home when he made a slow right on red. A sheriff's deputy pulled him over, ran his ID. "Do you know your license is flagged?" the deputy asked. Luis didn't. A few questions later, he was asked to step out. Within minutes, ICE was notified through an interoperability agreement with Michigan State Police. You learned later that Luis had applied for naturalization 6 months earlier. His interview was pending. USCIS had received all paperwork. But ICE doesn't talk to USCIS. Their systems don't sync, and to ICE, Luis was an alien subject to removal. No violent crimes, no gang ties, no prior deportation, just removable. His wife, Clara, waited for hours. When she called the station, they said he was in federal custody. Where, she asked. We don't know, they replied. By the time Clara found him, Luis had been transferred to a holding facility in Ohio. He had no lawyer, no bond hearing. The kids thought he'd gone on a trip. Clara told them, Poppy had to fix some paperwork. She didn't cry in front of them, but inside, she was unraveling. ICE's detainer listed Luis as a public safety concern. It made her laugh bitterly. He once called animal control because a squirrel was stuck in their attic. Dangerous, she whispered. Meanwhile, ICE issued a press release that same week celebrating a series of successful arrests in the Midwest. It didn't mention Luis, but it praised the seamless coordination with local law enforcement. The word seamless caught Clara's eye. Seamless, like a trapdoor. You begin to see how the puzzle fits together, but it's more like a trap. Every piece locks into another with precision, but none of them lead to justice. You dig through Track's quarterly reports and realize something staggering. Over 27% of people detained by ICE in the last fiscal year had no prior criminal conviction, not even a misdemeanor. Among those flagged for deportation, thousands had pending green card renewals or naturalization applications. Luis was not an outlier. He was standard procedure. The process is brutally efficient. Local police input a name, fingerprints match with Homeland Security databases, ICE is pinged, a detainer is filed. From there, it's a conveyor belt, county jail to ICE, transport to detention center. And at no point is a mistake corrected. Why would it be? That would slow down the machine. The Department of Homeland Security admits quietly that its biometric systems are prone to data discrepancies, but they justify it under the logic of national security. If one criminal slips through, the risk is too high. Better to detain 10 innocents than miss one guilty. You hear echoes of history in that logic, dark echoes. On social media, a story trends about an ICE raid in New York that netted a dozen people at a construction site. The New York Post calls it a clean sweep. The headline doesn't mention that 6 of the arrested men were asylum applicants with work permits. You wonder if clean has ever sounded dirtier. Meanwhile, ICE's official page boasts of historic removals in Q2, with arrest numbers up 43%. But the public doesn't see the footnotes, doesn't know that many of those removed were flagged for minor infractions, like expired tags or unpaid tolls. You read about one man deported after a noise complaint in his apartment complex. Luis's file was stamped final order of removal 11 days after his arrest. No one had reviewed his naturalization paperwork. No one had called his wife. It was all done electronically. A glitch marked him non-citizen. A click made him disappear. So you ask yourself, was this legal? Yes. Was it right? That's harder. ICE followed protocol. The officer acted on a federal detainer. The judge rubber-stamped the order, and nowhere in that cold cascade of paperwork did a single person pause and ask, is this who we want to be? One side of the argument is crisp and sterile. The law is the law. Luis had applied for citizenship, but wasn't a citizen yet. ICE operates under Title VIII. Their job isn't to interpret the law. It's to enforce it. They have quotas, operations, and a mandate from the Department of Homeland Security. If every agent stopped to consider each person's humanity, the system would collapse. That's what they say. But here's the rub. The United States government sent Luis a letter 2 weeks before his arrest, confirming that his biometric screening was complete and that his interview would be scheduled soon. USCIS was preparing to naturalize him. ICE, acting on data from the same federal government, deported him. One agency opened the door while another slammed it shut. The ethical tension lives in that contradiction. Immigration attorneys call it agency dissonance. You call it betrayal. An ACLU report highlights 217 cases of lawful residents mistakenly detained or deported due to database errors or miscommunications. It's called citizenship confusion. But that makes it sound like a clerical mishap. It isn't. It's systemic, built in. And when it happens, there's no apology, no restoration, just an empty chair at dinner. ICE's public affairs team, meanwhile, tweets about a successful operation targeting transnational threats. Their pinned post shows armored agents detaining a man in handcuffs beside a charter bus. The caption, "Keeping America Safe." Clara sees that post. She doesn't reply, but she saves it. For the day her children ask what happened, she'll show them. And maybe one day they'll ask, safe for who? That question lingers in your mind. Was this mistake or design? You walk into the living room 2 weeks after Luis is gone, and it's quieter than death. Clara's eyes are puffy but dry. There's a folded paper towel on the table where Luis used to set his coffee mug. The kids are playing on the floor, pretending nothing happened. But every so often, the little one looks at the door. Luis's daughter, Sophia, is 8. She writes him letters, bright purple crayon on lined paper. "Dear Poppy, Mommy said you're working somewhere far away. Are there trees? Did you get the gummy bears I packed?" She draws hearts. Some have wings. Clara tries to shield the kids, but the cracks are everywhere. The rent is late. Luis's paycheck is gone. She applies for emergency assistance, but is denied because technically he wasn't incapacitated, just deported. The language of systems has no room for grief. Her church rallies. They deliver meals. A GoFundMe is started. It raises $1,200 in 4 days, but it won't cover the legal fees. A local immigration attorney offers to appeal Luis's removal, but the odds are slim. The final order was executed.
Community after serving time in prison for sexual assault is picked up in Philadelphia.
Meanwhile, Luis calls once a week from El Salvador, the country he left at 14. He lives with a cousin he barely remembers. The walls are thin. The water is inconsistent. There's a curfew in his neighborhood. Gangs rule by night. He doesn't leave after 7 p.m. He tells Clara, "Tell the kids I'm building something for them." She doesn't say she knows it's a lie. ICE, on its official website, continues to tout its 99.8% removal accuracy. They cite internal audits, but accuracy, you think, is meaningless when the wrong removals are irreversible. And still, Clara waits. She writes her own letter, not to Luis, but to the newspaper. "My husband was taken because someone didn't check a box," she begins. Is this what safety looks like? What does it mean to belong to a place that doesn't claim you back? You sit with that question as you scroll through photos Luis posted from his new home, if you can call it that. A tin-roofed room, a hammock, a rusted bicycle, no smiles, just a man trying to hold dignity in the face of exile. And it hits you. He did everything right, paid taxes, obeyed the law, raised children who say please and thank you. He applied for citizenship, but none of that mattered the moment a database spit out his name. You think about the phrase American values. We say it like it means something universal. But whose values does it really reflect when a single clerical mismatch can destroy a life? Is citizenship a privilege or a shield? Because Luis had all the papers, all the permissions, until one typo turned him into a target. The philosopher Judith Shklar once wrote that the defining mark of citizenship in America is the right to avoid arbitrary arrest and exile. And yet every year, thousands of immigrants, some citizens, some not, are detained without cause, deported without due process. Trax reports document this in sterile bar graphs. But you see it in Clara's eyes. You hear it in Sophia's crayon letters. Even ICE agents whisper it behind closed doors. An anonymous agent told the Marshall Project that morale is low. "We're asked to enforce laws even when we know the system's broken," he said. "But if we don't, someone else will." You wonder how many stay silent because speaking out feels useless. Back in Michigan, Clara keeps a framed photo of Luis by the doorway. "So they don't forget," she says, "so they know who's missing." She doesn't tell them about the fear she still carries, that ICE might knock again, that somehow her presence here is conditional, that maybe belonging was always just an illusion. And you realize that comfort is a kind of blindness, and maybe, just maybe, silence is complicity. Now the choice is yours. You sit in your chair, the screen glowing back at you, and you realize this isn't just a story. This is a mirror. The machinery that removed Luis, it runs with our consent. Our silence oils its gears. Our distractions keep it efficient. And if that makes you uncomfortable, good. It should. The next time you hear ICE deported 12 today, ask who they were. Ask what they were doing before the knock came. Not just headlines, names, lives, dreams. Ask whether the data is being double-checked. Ask why ICE's detainer system doesn't require probable cause. Ask why USCIS and ICE don't share a common database if people's lives depend on it. You realize it's not enough to feel sad. Luis doesn't need your sympathy. Clara doesn't need your guilt. What they need is your voice, your share, your outrage channeled into clarity. The ACLU has petitions demanding reform of detainer protocols. The Migration Policy Institute has outlined safeguards to prevent false detentions. Your state rep is one email away. Your sheriff is one town hall away. If you don't act, someone else will, but you might not like who that someone is. This story, Luis's story, is not unique. There are thousands like it, and for every one we hear, there are 10 more hidden behind ICE's polished press releases and neutral language. Removal operation, non-citizen target, lawfully executed. Words that sterilize pain. You don't need to storm the gates, just open your mouth. Share the video, leave a comment, ask a question. ICE doesn't want trending. Remember Clara? She sent that letter to the newspaper. They never printed it, but we just did. Right here, right now. And you're part of the story now. You always were. So you sit back, eyes heavy, mind racing. Somewhere out there, a father hugs his kids goodbye through a fence. Somewhere, a child waits for a phone call that may not come. And here you are, safe scrolling, but changed. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. That means your empathy still works. That means the world hasn't hardened you just yet. Let it soften you instead. Let it open you. Breathe in. Let the image of Luis's last night in Michigan pass slowly through your chest and dissolve. Think about Clara. Think about Sophia's letter with the flying hearts. They don't know you exist. But tonight, you carried their story. And that matters more than you think. So close your eyes not to forget, but to hold their names closer. Luis, Clara, Sophia, say them softly. And promise yourself this won't be the last time you pay attention. This won't be the last story you care about. And when you wake, remember what silence costs and how easy it is to be louder than it.